today we're going to be boosting my Civic. I recently got the fuel injectors installed. I did all that kind of before I even took the exhaust manifold off and drove it around for a little while on the new injectors to kind of get a base tune rolling for this thing. Here they are. These are d16z6 injectors, and just got them dialed in pretty good, and got the motor out of the Mustang because the Mustang blew up. Look at the chain just kind of chilling in there. I don't think the crank is supposed to move like that. So here's some of my turbo parts. Here's the turbo. And the oil line. My wastegate. Flange for the exhaust. Cast iron log manifold. And intercooler. Far I am so far. Got the turbo manifold on. The wastegate's on the turbo manifold, and the turbo is mounted on the turbo manifold as well. I gotta run the oil feed line from the back of the motor, and then I gotta drill the pan for the return line, weld up a downpipe of some sort, mount the intercooler yet, and put the piping on. So I will pick up on the next step. Mounted. I just took some flat stock, drilled a hole on one side, and then welded right to the crash bar here. And a good tip, if you want the bumper to fit really good on a Civic, you need to put the intercooler pretty much as far in as you can. It makes the bumper fitment a lot easier when you go to put everything back on. Line's on now. I'll right there. I drilled and tapped the pan to a 3/8 barb fitting, and then the feed line, I don't know, you probably can't see that. The feed line just goes right on the back of the block. And yeah, now we got to put an exhaust on it and finish intercooler piping. Special, nothing fucking fits. Just kidding. This is Hunter tuned. We make it fit. We got the Civic almost finished up here. I got the intercooler piping on and everything like that. The piping definitely, it's a CX Racing piping kit, and the piping definitely doesn't fit the way it's supposed to. I don't know what it's really intended for, but I use it pretty much on every Civic build that I do. And it just requires a couple pipes to get cut and shortened a little bit. But the couplers and clamps and everything like that, and the fact that it comes with the knockoff HKS blow-off valve and all that, I feel it's worth it for the $120 or whatever it is. It's 2.5-inch piping and everything like that. I got a Turbo Smart wastegate knockoff, and then it's got just like the basic eBay 50 trim turbo cast log manifold with the wastegate actually centered right above the turbo manifold. Some of these manifolds actually only have the wastegate venting on one runner, and I definitely suggest that you avoid getting one of those if you are planning on doing a Civic turbo build at all. So yeah, we're just waiting on to get the exhaust finished up here to connect it to the rest of the exhaust here, and get some vacuum lines ran and everything like that. I'm actually putting the gauges in right now. I bought this gauge pod here. This is for an EK. I believe it's only an EK, and Integris can use this gauge pod, and they fit right in the cluster there. They look really nice when it's finished. I'll show you a clip here when I get them in. But the one tech tip here for anybody that's running gauges and the gauge is too small for the hole, what I honestly do is I take the gauge and I wrap electrical tape around the gauge so it makes it thicker. Because when you wrap electrical tape around the gauge, it actually is able to fit in a bigger slot. So yeah, I always do that on pretty much any gauge pillar I buy, because usually the gauges are always too small or whatever. But yeah, so we're going to be finishing the exhaust on this thing tomorrow morning, and this thing should be ready to rip. It's got the 1000cc injectors. I got an AEM 3.5 bar map sensor, Hondata, and the Hondata's got boost by gear in it, so I'll be putting a max solenoid on the wastegate to control boost through the Hondata, which is really cool. And yeah, I don't know. She's pretty much ready to rip. I always am super anal about putting a bumper on nice and clean. A lot of times when, you know, people put a turbo kit on and they put the intercooler on, the bumper never fits right. So like I said in the last clip, you got to make sure the intercooler is pushed in as far as you can put it, and you got to just make sure the piping is nice and tucked in and everything like that. And then you just got to trim a little bit on the bumper, just on the grill support and everything like that, to make sure that the bumper fits all the way on. And as you can see, this bumper fits like factory. Intercooler looks super good behind the stock grill. I hate when people cut the grill out just because I don't know, it's kind of just a, I don't know, it just looks cheesy, you know. I like when the factory grill is there, and if you're actually looking for the intercooler, you can see it, and it's not just like poking out. So we're gonna get these gauges in and everything like that, and then we'll take you for a rip, hopefully. Well, this thing's been nothing but a freaking nightmare lately. I got the turbo and everything on, and I went out for some driving. And after we drove it a little bit, I noticed that the turbo was being really lazy and it wasn't coming on the boost really good. So I went and made a boost leak tester, and I tested, as you can see, one of the other videos, how to make a boost leak tester. Tested all the pipes and the intake manifold and everything like that for boost leaks. And I didn't really have any big boost leaks, so I was wondering why the turbo was being super lazy. And I actually took the air filter off of the turbo, and the compressor wheel was starting to dig into the compressor housing. And yeah, so I was like, okay, the turbo's shot. Maybe I just got a dud. So I had a buddy that had another turbo, pretty much the same exact thing. It had a little bit bigger exhaust wheel on it, and I threw that one on. And I drove it for like 5 fucking miles, and it went out. It did the same shit. It started burning oil, and the compressor wheel was actually digging into the compressor housing. I don't know if you can see it, but the blades are starting to bend a little bit, and it just started getting lazy on me. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is the deal here? Something's got to be wrong. It can't be 2 turbos in a row. So I got another turbo, pretty much the same thing, and I looked at the oil restrictor line, or the oil restrictor plate, and I noticed that it was smaller than I'm used to seeing on a restrictor plate. So I actually put a different restrictor plate on this third turbo that's been on the car. And as you can see here, that's one of the restrictors. This is actually the one that is working really good on the car currently. If I put them side by side, you can definitely tell that the restrictor plate on the right side is smaller than the one on the left. And I think that is what was giving me all these issues with the turbo going out all the time. So these eBay turbos are really picky on how much oil you give them, and you definitely want to give them a little more than what you think, because a little bit of oil seeping out of the compressor housing is nothing compared to lack of lubrication, which can lead to catastrophic failure and probably blow chunks through your motor. So I got that all sorted out now. I got this turbo on. It's on about 12 pounds of boost, 13 pounds of boost right now. And it definitely feels way healthier than the other turbos with the shitty restrictor plate on them. So yeah, next time I put an eBay turbo on, I'm definitely going to measure the size of the restrictor plate and make sure it's good. I actually have a drill bit that I can drill the hole out to match the one that I'm using now. Do a 60 roll. Well, I can finally say that I think the Civic is pretty dialed in. High boost, it's on like 21 pounds right now, and I got it set at 16 just to daily beat the shit out of it. But 21, it definitely pulls pretty good. I got a couple clips of us doing some pulls on 16 pounds. Ignore the boost gauge, it's completely fucked up. Something's wrong with it, and it's reading like 32 pounds or something. It's reading like double what the car is actually running. But the Honda and the map sensor is only reading like 16, so I'm going to trust that over the boost gauge that, you know, is reading inaccurate. So, yep, got that done, and this thing is ready to rip. I'm just going to beat the shit out of it continuously until something breaks or I get bored and turn the boost up some more. So, till then, we're going to be starting to build the 5.3. The next video I put out is going to be of assembling my 5.3. So, look forward to that.